This isn't your average podcast. But then again, David Soble isn't your typical business and finance attorney. For your consideration and appreciation, get ready to get serious. It's the Proven Resources Get Serious podcast with attorney and author David Soble.
So thanks for joining us. This is David Soble with Proven Resource. I'm a real estate and finance attorney here in metropolitan Detroit. And today, joining me on Proven Resources Get Serious podcast is David Seymour, who owns BBC Title Company, which is a title insurance underwriter. Welcome, David. How's it going?
Thank you, David. Beautiful. I'm very happy to be here. Yes, a nice, very brisk, cold St. Patrick's Day.
I almost didn't let you in the office. I forgot that you were out in the hallway there. I apologize.
Well, someone had to bang on the door. And
Welcome to Saturday morning. So, Bat, I don't think have you ever been on a podcast or anything like that?
I have not been on a podcast before.
You dressed up so nicely for it today.
Thank you.
They were supposed to have a webinar today.
I do have a face for radio.
Yeah, so do I. So it makes two of us. So what I wanted to do, what I usually do, Bat, to give you an idea, because I didn't give you a lot of background on this, is that the information that we provide to the listeners and the people who follow us on Proven Resource Radio is really to be useful, not technical, but to give people enough information, not to be dangerous, but enough for them to know where they need to go to solve their real estate or financial problems, okay? And I asked you on today because your business and what you do is probably the most boring part of real estate, I think, but one of the most essential parts of the real estate transaction, and that's being in the title business. But before we get to your company and what you do actually on a daily basis, tell me how you got into the title business, because I think my understanding is you're an attorney as well, correct?
I am an attorney by background.
Okay.
Went to Georgetown Law School, and now I'm here in Detroit doing title insurance, which frankly I always thought was synonymous with sex, drugs, and rock and roll. But
really,
I guess maybe people do think it's a little bit on the dry side.
Well, I think it's pretty dry. I mean, we have to deal with it, but you know.
Well, I find it very interesting. So
how'd you get into it?
So I was practicing law in Bloomfield Hills. Wanted to open a business someday. Talked with a couple of friends, and we started talking about things. And I, mentioned that I happen to use title companies quite a lot. You need A, B, and C to do something like that. And we all looked at each other, and we thought we had what it would take. So after putting some pen to paper, we thought it was a great idea, and we decided to open up shop right before the real estate market hit its big downturn. And but we've
you weathered the storm.
We weathered the storm. Yeah. We had a lot of fun doing it.
Actually, it's interesting, but it's going to be 10 years actually since Lehman Brothers crashed. And my understanding is next Monday they're actually having a symposium with Tim Geithner and Ben Bernanke, and I forgot who the guy was beforehand, the Fed chair, talking about the Great Recession and with the market crash in 2008. So you started the business right before that?
Yeah, just a few years before that. We just got up and going, got everything going, and we watched everything fall apart. Had a pretty good inside line on being able to watch everything happen. Used to joke we could see tumbleweeds go down the hallway because of real estate just ground to a halt right after Lehman Brothers. Right. Everybody was so scared. Everything halted for a good few months.
Right. And then it slowly trickled back.
Yes.
And now, my goodness, you're so busy I couldn't even get you in here for the longest time. So I appreciate that you joined us. Tell me, explain to the people who are listening, what is title insurance and why is it important for people to have title insurance?
title insurance, as my old law school professor would say, you would get disbarred if you ever told someone not to get title insurance in a transaction.
Okay.
People, but it's a big mystery what we really do. I like to describe it as we're the middle people. It's our job to collect all the documents, all the money, and get it where it needs to get at the end of the day.
The real estate transaction.
Yes.
Okay.
And then if for some reason an error happened along the way, the insurance parts kicks in and makes someone whole. If for some reason there's a problem with the paperwork or there's a problem with the money getting where it needs to get.
So essentially, the way I look at it, I mean, you are really the coordinators of the transaction at the end. I work with you quite frequently, and it's like a puzzle is what we're trying to resolve on a daily basis when it comes to title, because you're 100% correct. First of all, any attorney who says don't get title insurance on a transaction, you might as well just, I don't know, close your doors and turn in your shingle. But very frequently, especially in Southeast Michigan, there's a lot of issues that concern how people hold title, the interest in the property. And we're always trying to make sure, almost on a daily basis in real estate, that either a business owner who's refinancing or taking a new loan out or buying a property or selling a property is the individual who's going to step into the shoes of the previous owner and make sure that they are the first person in title to that property and have the right to own that property without anybody else's interference. That's kind of how I look at it. And it goes for residential purchases as well. And
yes, so we search the whole history of a property and make sure that the person that is stepping up to sell that property actually owns the property and that there's documentation to prove that fact. You know, for example, I had somebody come in my office this week. They were, how fast can we close? I'm an investor. I really want to buy this property. And if we can close by the end of the week, that'd be great. And I said, well, you know, that all depends if the title, all our work on title comes back and shows that we have a good, clean situation. So I had to call them up at the end of the week and explain to them that, well, the person that's selling it to you, actually, there's no deed into this person's name.
Right.
So we'll need to figure out exactly what's going on here because there's a situation.
And that's the puzzle.
And that's the puzzle. Right. And usually there's a solution to it.
Oh, sure.
But it often takes a little bit of work, a little bit of thought, and hopefully some cooperation of the people involved, and you can get the documentation necessary in order to
close the transaction. Yeah, it's kind of like it's like a mail slot in a door, and the mailman's trying to get it's a package through the mail slot, and the mail slot's usually like 3 by, not even 3 inches by 6 inches long and wide, and if you don't just put that envelope in properly, it just won't fit. It won't get through the slot, and that's kind of what title is. It's like the goal. At the end, you got to kick that ball into the goal or get into the end zone, and the transactions that I work on usually have quite a bit of hair on it, but that's why people hire me to get it resolved. But in the end, I'm actually working with people, good attorneys and good title agents like yourselves, to get that field goal, so to speak, right? To get that title insured.
Well, we enjoy it, and we like working with people that know what they're talking about and able to enjoy that.
When I call you, you kind of hesitate when you pick up the phone when you see my number.
The receptionist knows to try to dump you to voicemail, but
you do call back
in joking,
in all jest.
But no, but I that's the part of my job that I really enjoy is
working out the deal,
working out the details, and knowing that, frankly, that it's a select community of people that know how to navigate these types of waters.
In the end, it really is insurance, though. I mean, besides escrowing money for the transaction, that means dispersing the money to the different parties involved in the transaction, or receiving monies from certain parties. In the end, it's really a risk management process, making sure that you can insure the title.
Yes.
So,
well, we look at it. It's a little different than, say, insuring a car.
Right.
But what we're doing is, and I like to describe it. Maybe
I apologize, but so what are like the three things that you wish people knew about your business, and how you can make it easier for them, let's say, to get their title cleaned?
Sure. First, I would ask people to just be very responsive. And I think people get frustrated in real estate because they're working with a lot of professionals and they're asking for all kinds of documentation. And we like to joke, we even ask for blood samples out of people because they feel like to get a mortgage these days that it takes a lot of paperwork.
Right.
But it does take time to do what we do, and so if you were to get on our side, you would realize that there's a lot of work we're doing behind the scenes. So if people got us the paperwork, that helps us keep the process moving along pretty smoothly.
What are you usually looking for when you say paperwork? What are you looking for?
For example, we need to get permission slips, so to speak. We call them payoff authorizations to go get your mortgage payoff from the old mortgage. So when you're selling your house, you have a mortgage on there. That mortgage company's not going to talk to us unless we've got something in writing for you. So you need to get that writing. Then we take that, send that over to the lender, and then we go through a certain process in order to get an accurate mortgage payoff for you. That's just one example of some of the things that we're doing behind the scenes.
Right.
But we need the paperwork in hand in order to get that process rolling for you. I would also, on a second piece of advice for people, I'd really advise them to save their paperwork from real estate transactions.
Right.
There's a lot of times. Real estate's complicated. There's a lot of hands in the in there, and if someone forgets to file a certain paper later down the line, the fact that you have a copy can really help solve the day later on. So that would be that, and in particular, if you get your owner's title policy when you purchase your house, that's something you should always keep. That would be a very important document that you should have.
Item number 2, which you said, which is, keep your paperwork and, for follow-up, etc. I'm going to share with you something that happened not even 2 weeks ago. I had a client who I had done a real estate transaction on a commercial piece of property back in like 2015, maybe 2014, 2015. And she purchased it through a receiver. And a receiver is somebody who acts on behalf of a third party who, in this situation, it was an appointed receiver for a bank who was selling a building. And my client was the purchaser. And the building was a little close to $1.3 million. But before we closed, there were 4 large tax liens on the property for the prior owner of this business and property owner. And the receiver had received a letter from the IRS that said, look, we're willing to release these tax liens that are on the property, but in order to give you this conditional release, we must have, within 30 days from the day of the closing, a copy of the filed deed, which didn't make any sense. It should have just been a regular deed, but not recorded at that point, as well as a HUD settlement sheet, which is the closing sheet that evidences the whole transaction. And the IRS agents basically said, if you provide these items to us, we will release the approximate, at that time, $465,000 worth of tax liens. So I represented the buyer, and we went into the closing based on the conditional letter. And the attorney who represented the receiver said, well, we'll take care of this for you. We'll take care of this and we'll get the title cleaned. It's conditional, but it will be taken care of. And I'm like, no, I want my client's money in escrow until we get this taken care of. No, the bank had some issues with it. They had a certain time limitation. So I told the attorney for the receiver, I'm going to allow you to do this, but I want you to write me an indemnification letter if it's not taken care of properly. Right? And he had a fit. He was a little insulted. But I said, look, I'll do it. Give me the deed. Give me the HUD settlement statement. This is my client. I'm willing to do it so we don't have this issue. Well, he was more insulted after that. 2.5 years later, I get a call less than 2 weeks ago. My client's trying to refinance her property. And what shows up? The tax liens. They were never released. They were never released. First call I make is to the attorney who gave me this indemnification letter.
Of course.
Right. And where is he? He's no longer with the firm.
Oh.
But I have to share with you, and that's about keeping copies of everything. And I had not only the indemnification letter, but I also had a copy of the deed and a copy of the settlement statement. And I called the IRS, and guess what? The lady who had issued the conditional letter, she's retired. She's no longer there, and they moved the whole department to Pennsylvania. I'm thinking this is all right. It's a wild goose chase, right? This is the stuff that we deal with on a regular basis. And in this one, I really fought to do it on my for the client, but the bank didn't want that. Long and short, I don't know. I really lucked out. Either they're doing like a Zappos customer service training program at the IRS, or I just lucked out with the right guy, because this person took such good care of us in less than 3 days. I sent him in the paperwork. He looked it up, saw the notes from the now retired IRS agent, and said, look, I can't believe anybody would have closed on this without some type of confirmation that we would release it. And since there's no value to the old, liens from this other individual, we're going to issue you the release. I almost fell off my chair because that almost never happens that you get a response like that. But I can tell you this. I was sweating for like 3 days.
I
was
imagine.
so pissed. I called the other law firm like several times, and I showed them. I said, "You've given me a letter of indemnification. You're going to take care of this." And they, we'll take care of it. But my nature is I can't wait, especially when I got that type of almost $500,000 lien out there. So happy to report in this situation, the IRS came through for us. So I was very pleased. But that's the stuff, keeping your paperwork, right? I mean, it's our job. You keep everything, right? On every deal.
We keep everything. We store it away. We have it PDF to put on a backup system. And
a backup system for the backup system.
Yeah, we do have a backup for the backup system, yes. Yes, we do. So, and that would really, that just gets to the third point, which is listen to the professionals that are giving you advice along the way.
We were talking about rowing. Right?
Yes.
Earlier, and you're familiar. What is that picture? It's a picture of it's like an industry image. It's an image of...
It's a rowing shell with several people in there, everybody with an oar. Uh-huh. And in order to make a rowing shell go forward, everyone's got to pull in unison.
Right.
And so everyone has their role to play. And
everybody being the real estate agent, the buyer, the seller, the attorney...
mortgage
appraiser,
lender, the appraiser.
Right.
There's a lot of people. People
have to pull their
because
weight,
they don't see them.
Right.
They don't often recognize how many people are actually all pulling their oar to get your transaction to a closing table. But
in the next frame, what does that picture say? So you're very familiar with this image. What is in the next frame? Somebody says row, and just one person is off, and the whole shell tips.
Yes.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about? If you don't, I'll send it to you.
I'd appreciate getting that picture. That would be funny. But yes, as someone who used to row in his youth, I remember that. We used to call that when someone would miss, you call that catching a crab.
Oh, is that what it is?
The oar literally is moving so fast it can literally throw you out of the boat.
Does it hit the other people or anything like that? Or it can?
It's just you, and it just tosses you straight in.
Right.
It either knocks you flat or knocks you into the water. Either way, you're not happy, and at best embarrassed. So,
yeah, I do want to talk. I know that you have limited time today, and I really appreciate that you stopped by.
Sure.
But I have a question for you because we're seeing more and more of these type of cases, and I know I've called you in the past few weeks to help with clearing some of these issues. But are you seeing more quiet title actions these days? Like, are you seeing more issues related to real estate investors coming in, purchasing property, and they don't realize, perhaps they don't know, they're just so excited they bought a deed from tax sale, or that they have to actually quiet the title to those deeds?
well, quiet title actions are fairly common
Right.
in certain situations.
Right.
The most common situation that we see right now
Mm-hmm.
are when investors buy property out of tax sales.
Right.
And if they want to make that a marketable property, they need to quiet the title. Most of the time, it's a fairly simple process because no one will step forward. So the quiet title action is usually an efficient process for the attorney to do.
Right.
Occasionally, it can be a little more difficult, but that's more the exception.
Quiet means basically to resolve, really, to put
Exactly.
This,
Yeah, it's not that there's a noise violation of the property. It's that yes, that there is the potential that someone could come forward and challenge the ownership of the property, or that they might have some sort of an interest in the property, whether it be that guy owes me money, or
a lien. That would be like
my aunt said I would get that property when she dies,
Right.
or some sort of situation like that.
Right. And you can actually, for title insurance purposes, if you can show perhaps people who are, they have to be of record actually to actually lay the claim to the title. But if you can clear those up, there's an alternative way that you can clear title, and that is find everybody who shows up on title that may affect or have a claim to the property, and you go out and you basically extinguish their interest.
Exactly.
Which
So
is
if you could
it's
get
kind of
someone,
hard sometimes.
it can take a little bit of work,
Right.
but it might be easier than the lawsuit. But if you can go out and have people voluntarily deed over their interest, which at the end of the day, it's not like the person would be giving up anything.
No.
They really don't have a right in the property,
Right.
other than their name happened to appear in the history of the
Right.
property.
Well, the concern is that with the tax sale, that the county may not have notified them or provided proper notice with regards to the procedure. It's kind
Yes,
of hard.
there's a very detailed statute.
Right.
It has lots of rules in order for the property to be tax foreclosed on. They have to follow all sorts of rules. And so the concern would be is if the county accidentally did not
Missed it.
follow one of the rules,
Right.
that someone could step forward and say that it was ineffective and they should get the property back.
Right.
And that's the concern.
Right. I actually, you can try to do like corrective action, which is trying to find somebody to sign off on a deed to extinguish the interest. But I just took in a file not more than a week ago where the individual's name that shows up on title is like James Robinson. It's not really that name, but it's close.
Sure.
It's a very common name in Wayne County. Do you know how many James, let's say Jones, there are in Wayne County? So in something like that, it's, unless you know the specific James Jones that was affected by this situation, let's say with a Social Security number or something, you're going to
Sure.
be hard-pressed to correct that or extinguish that deed or interest, extinguish that
Sure.
interest.
We've done closings for literally John Smith, I think, which is the most common name in America. And what's a lot of people don't understand how the land records work, but they're all based on people's names. They
Right.
aren't really based on the property itself.
Right.
So when you're trying to search somebody's name and you come and you have to search John Smith, You better hope that every other John Smith
Right.
in Wayne County has good credit,
Right.
because
Right.
any problem and every John Smith has to
right.
deal with what the worst John Smith has done.
And
So.
you verify, right? That's true. And like one of the ways that you verify is you gather their social security number. You do a social security.
We do.
Check,
We
right?
sometimes we have to collect people's social security number and use
Right.
that to verify against
Hundreds
certain
of-
liens and
Right.
debts. So
It's a lot of work. It
Yes,
is a
it
lot of
is.
work. Like I said, so you make it quite. I think, like I said, of all the parts of the real estate transaction, I think it's, to me, the most dull, but most important transaction. Most important part of the transaction is getting title, and making sure that everybody has a clear title to the property. So.
well, as I
You've
said,
done a good-
we are the middle people.
Right.
Everything at the end of the day does have to flow through us, and
Yeah.
if
get blamed
it
the
doesn't
most.
work on flowing through us, then
Right.
the whole transaction
Right.
fails. So
And your notaries as well. I mean,
correct.
Right.
So everybody in my office happens to be a notary,
Right.
and that's required for any time that a document is to be recorded with the county. It does need to be notarized.
Right. Well, Bat, I'm going to wrap it up unless you have anything else to say. I appreciate that you came in with regards to your area of expertise. I know that you have a closing to go to, and you're always working. You're just a hardworking guy. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I really enjoyed being here.
No, you did. No, you really did. I know you kind of came over from the other side of town to be up here, so I really do appreciate it, and letting our audience know how important it is to have title work and what's necessary with regards to what they need, etc., to close their transaction. So, thanks again. How can people reach you, Bat, at your title company?
You can find us at bbctitle.com
Okay.
or give us a call.
And where are you located, real quickly?
We're at Woodward and 696.
But you close transactions all over the place.
All
correct?
over the state of Michigan, but obviously the vast majority is within the Tri-County area here
Okay.
in southeast Michigan.
And so how can they reach you? Again, I'm sorry I interrupted, but...
bbctitle.com is the
Okay.
easiest way to find us, and
Uh-huh.
you can get our phone number, 248-546-1300 right there.
Very good. All right, well, thanks again, Bat. We're going to have you on. I think we're going to do a webinar in a couple weeks with Dylan Tanaka of the National Real Estate Investors Association of Macomb, and hopefully you'll join us then, and we'll be actually, on screen. So I'm actually not dressed up today, but you came in. You look great. You do have a face for radio, like myself. But thanks for joining us on this Saturday morning. Dave Soble with Proven Resource. If you need to get in touch with us, my number is 888-789-1715. We deal with all types of real estate and financial issues that people encounter on a regular basis. And you can also... if you need to get in touch with us, you can go on provenresource.com or sobleonmobile.com, and we're happy to see what we can do to help you. Thanks, and have a great day. Take care.